When I bought a quiet mountain home to escape the chaos of city life, I never imagined I'd be fighting a family of strangers who broke in, claimed it was theirs, and tried to have me arrested for trespassing. Before you judge me, make sure you watch till the end, because you won't believe what Karen did next. Subscribe for more unbelievable true stories like this one, because this one still gives me chills whenever I think about it. When I first saw the listing for the old cabin nestled in the Smoky Mountains, it looked like something out of a dream. Weathered wood, a stone chimney, a view that could melt stress right out of your bones. I'd just gone through a brutal breakup, sold my apartment in the city, and wanted peace, solitude, and a project to distract me. The price was almost too good to be true, but the realtor said it had been sitting vacant for over a decade, and the owner, an elderly widow living in Florida, just wanted it off her hands. I paid in full, closed the deal, and drove up that winding mountain road with the biggest grin on my face, humming to myself as the sun set behind the pines. When I arrived, the house smelled of dust, cedar, and promise. I slept that night on a blow-up mattress in the living room, dreaming about fresh paint, crackling fires, and coffee on the porch. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of laughter, children laughing. Confused, I stepped outside, and there they were, a woman in her 40s with a haircut that screamed, "I want to speak to your manager," a balding man in sweatpants, and two kids chasing each other around my porch. "Can I help you?" I asked, clutching my coffee. The woman turned, eyes narrowed. "Can we help you? You're on our property." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "No, ma'am, this is my home. I just bought it." Her expression hardened. "No, you don't understand. This house belongs to my family. My father built it in the 70s. We've been away, but we're back now." I froze, unsure how to respond. "That can't be right. I have the deed." She folded her arms. "You must have been scammed. But don't worry, we'll sort it out. Just pack your things and leave before my husband calls the sheriff." My jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." The man stepped forward, towering over me, and said in a low voice, "We're giving you a chance to leave peacefully." I backed away and locked myself inside, hands shaking. I called the realtor, who was just as confused as I was. She swore the title was clean and the sale was legal. She told me to stay calm and contact the sheriff myself. I did. The sheriff arrived 2 hours later, a big guy with a slow drawl and mirrored sunglasses. When he pulled up, Karen and her family were sitting in lawn chairs on my porch, drinking soda like they owned the place. I rushed to explain, waving my papers. The sheriff nodded, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, do you have proof of ownership?" She smiled sweetly. "We have sentimental proof, Sheriff. My daddy's ashes are buried behind that house. We ain't letting no stranger take what's ours." The sheriff sighed. "This sounds like a civil matter. You folks will need to sort it out in court." My heart sank. I wanted him to make them leave, but instead, he just gave them a warning not to cause trouble and left. That night, I could hear them outside, whispering, walking around, their flashlights cutting through the windows. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found muddy footprints on my porch and my tool shed broken into. My hammer, crowbar, and some power tools were gone. I confronted them again, and Karen smirked. "Oh, those. We just borrowed them. We'll bring them back once we fix the fence you broke." "I didn't break any fence," I snapped. Her husband stepped closer. "Then you won't mind paying for it. Anyway." I reported it to the sheriff again, but he said without video proof, it was my word against theirs. That's when I decided to install cameras. I bought a full set online, set them up all around the property, and caught everything. That night, the cameras recorded Karen's son sneaking onto my porch, trying to open the door. When the door didn't budge, he spat on the handle and walked off. The next morning, I showed the footage to the sheriff. He finally warned them to stay away from my property, but that only made them angrier. They started parking their truck at the edge of my driveway, blocking me in. They'd sit there for hours, watching me. Then one afternoon, I came home from town and found my front door wide open. My stomach dropped. Inside, the place was trashed. My mattress was slashed, my cabinets empty, food thrown everywhere. I heard laughter upstairs and froze. Karen was in my bedroom, going through my dresser drawers. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. She turned calmly. Cleaning out my room. Your room. She shrugged. The sheriff can't stop us. We belong here. You're the intruder. I ran to call 911, but her husband yanked the phone from my hand and slammed it against the wall. You're not calling anyone. My heart pounded as I grabbed my car keys and ran. I locked myself inside my truck and drove straight to the sheriff's office. This time, I refused to leave until they did something. The sheriff finally agreed to send deputies. They escorted Karen and her family off the property, warning them not to return. I thought it was over. But that night, the nightmare truly began. Around midnight, I woke to the sound of footsteps again, heavy, slow, deliberate. I grabbed my flashlight and crept downstairs. The front door was wide open. My heart hammered as I scanned the darkness, and then I saw it, a faint glow coming from the woods. I followed it, stupid, I know, but something told me I needed proof. The glow came from a small bonfire near the tree line. Karen and her husband were there, chanting something I couldn't make out, tossing old furniture pieces, my furniture, into the flames. You don't belong here, Karen screamed into the night. This land rejects you. I backed away and called 911 again, but by the time deputies arrived, the fire was gone and so were they. The next morning, I found a message carved into my porch rail, "Leave now." That's when I decided to hire a lawyer. My lawyer, a tough-as-nails woman named Denise, dug into the county records. What she found made my blood run cold. Karen's father had once owned the property, but he'd sold it 30 years ago to the very widow I'd bought it from. Karen's family had no legal claim at all. Denise filed a restraining order, and finally, the sheriff agreed to arrest them if they came back. For a few weeks, things were quiet. I started repairs again, patching holes, painting walls, trying to pretend life was normal. Then one morning, I woke up to smoke. My kitchen was on fire. I barely made it out in time. The fire department said it looked suspicious. An accelerant had been poured through a broken window. My cameras had been smashed the night before. I had no footage, no proof, but I knew who did it. I drove to the motel where Karen's family was staying and confronted them in the parking lot. Karen smiled like a predator. You think you can steal my home and burn me out of it? I'll take everything you love before I let that happen. I shouted that I had lawyers, police, everything. She just laughed and said, "You can't fight family history." The next day, she posted on Facebook that I was a conman who forged documents to steal her property. Locals started whispering. A few even refused to sell me supplies. My peace was gone. Then, one night, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, ready to yell, but it wasn't Karen. It was an older man, frail and trembling. "You don't know me," he said, "but I'm Karen's uncle. I need to tell you something before it's too late." He explained that Karen's father hadn't sold the property willingly. He'd lost it in a bankruptcy after a failed construction business. Karen had always blamed outsiders for their family's fall. She'd made it her mission to reclaim what she thought was rightfully theirs, by any means necessary. "She's sick," he whispered. "Obsessed. You need to get out before she does something you can't come back from." I thanked him, shaken, and the next morning I drove into town to stay with a friend while I decided what to do. That night, my phone pinged, motion detected at the cabin. The feed came online, and I saw Karen and her husband again, this time carrying gasoline cans. I called the sheriff immediately. By the time deputies arrived, they caught them in the act. Karen screamed as they arrested her, "It's mine. It's all mine." The news spread fast. The town realized who'd been lying all along. Karen was charged with arson, trespassing, and harassment. Her husband pleaded guilty, and they were both sentenced to prison. The house needed major repairs after the fires and break-ins, but I rebuilt everything, stronger, safer, with cameras wired into the cloud this time. Months later, I sat on my new porch with a cup of coffee, the mountain breeze soft against my face. Peace, finally, or so I thought. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridges, I saw a car slowly creeping up the dirt road. My stomach tightened. It stopped at the edge of my driveway, engine idling. The window rolled down, and a teenage girl, maybe 16, stared at me with cold blue eyes. She smiled faintly and whispered something I barely heard over the wind. "You ruined my mother's life." Then she drove away. I haven't seen her since, but every night, I lock every door twice. Sometimes, when the wind howls through the pines, I swear I hear a woman's voice whispering, "It was ours." And maybe that's the real curse of that mountain home. Not ghosts or legends, but the living kind of haunting that comes from people who can't let go of the past. So if you ever buy an old house in the mountains that seems too good to be true, check who might still believe it's theirs. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next one is even crazier.